I'm Enigma Hood. Now, I made a video that was talking about this history of Duke Nukem thing, and it didn't really turn out so great. It just kind of turned into me just making fun of Joe Siegler a lot, and there wasn't a lot of substance to it. And while that's okay, and that should be perfectly fine, and I shouldn't have to do anything more, I thought, I can do better than that. So I decided just to make the whole thing over again, and actually I'm going to comment on the entire video wherever I might deem it interesting to say anything about it. So let's watch the history of Duke Nukem and see if this is, an informative video, or if this is just like some kind of stupid ass advert, like elaborate ad for Duke Nukem Forever. Let's watch it.
It was in 1991 that we created Duke Nukem and released it to the world as a side-scroller, and it was a huge hit. Our inspiration back then was comic books, because we always felt like if you focus on the character, there's no end of stories.
Duke does it his way, and his way is very entertaining. It's a wild thing.
So Duke Nukem 1. I played this game back in the old days. I didn't play it recently after Duke Nukem 3 or anything like that. No, I played this back in the olden days. I remember we would go to my father's work for Christmas. They would have like a Christmas thing over there, and they could take their kids to work and stuff like that, and I would go there. And the cool thing about going to my father's work is that he had computers at work, and you gotta remember, this was early fucking 90s, there weren't, computers were not ubiquitous like they are now, so I got to play on some of the computers that had more advanced graphics and, EGA graphics and shit like that, and one of the games I was able to play over there was Duke Nukem 1, and it was a pretty fun game. However, looking in hindsight, it, compared to the console platforming games, I really don't think it's even a fraction as good as like Mario or Sonic or something like that. Because the console platforming games were different in style in the sense that there was a beginning and the only goal was to reach the end, which was usually located somewhere on the right. You began somewhere on the left and then you just made your way to the right, going through obstacles and platforming and stuff like that. And a platformer should be as simple as possible. It should have like a good control, some kind of interesting gameplay. But the core mechanics is the level design itself, and it was simple but challenging. Whereas Duke Nukem was, like other PC platforming games, was just a key hunt. And it wasn't, like just a simple go to the end. It was hunt through the entire stage looking for keys, and then get to the goal to unlock the door. And while that's okay, it just got really repetitive. Like Commander Keen was like that. What was that called? Biomenace was like that. Monster Bash was like that. All these platforming games for the PC were like that. So really, what differentiated Duke from all of those? Well, Duke. The shooting mechanics were kind of fun, but it really was the Duke character. And while Scott Miller said like it was heavily inspired by comic books and stuff like that, I have a feeling it had more to do with just like action movies starring Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone, these big tough action movie guys.
The original name for the game was actually called Heavy Metal, and the idea was to have sort of an anti-hero who was very much sort of a renegade in society and sort of, an ex-military guy who went rogue. When the original Duke got started, it was myself, Alan Blum, and another programmer, Todd Repogel.
Todd Repogel and I went to school together. We grew up together in Santa Cruz.
Whatever the hell happened to Todd Repogel? Why is he like just depicted as like this idiot, in a photograph going like, ugh! What happened to him? I think he might have like just dropped off the face of the planet or something like that. But I think he might be living somewhere in Asia, last time I checked. And he's not into like video games or anything like that anymore. But really, Todd Repogel and this Alan Blum guy, they're the guys who invented Duke. Scott Miller, I think he just was part of Apogee and that was it. And You know, it was really those two no-name guys who nobody really fucking remembers that invented Duke. It's a shame, you know, that they didn't get more credit than they deserve.
He started making side-scrollers and stuff, and while I was going to school at UCSC studying computer science, we were working on Duke Nukem 1 together.
There's a guy I'd like to, you know, anytime I have an opportunity, I like to call him out. His name's Alan Blum. And Alan, he created Duke. He and Todd Replogle, back in 1991, 92, created the original 2D side-scrollers of Duke Nukem. And, you know, great, fun games. And he's the one guy that from the very first moment of Duke existing, all the way through till today, has been involved in the Duke projects.
Yeah, you know, like, actually, Randy Pitchford seems like a pretty nice guy. You know, that's... When I hear him talk, he seems pretty nice. I don't really know him. He might be a jerk in real life, I have no idea, but he seems nice. And that's the big difference between him and Joe Siegler, who's a fucking jerk. Who's a fucking dickhead. And as you can see from, you know, the last screenshot showing Duke Nukem 2, you know, they always, for some reason, they keep, like, pandering to this guy. They gave him a special thank you to Joe Siegler at the end of Duke Nukem 2 for what? For doing the voice of Duke Nukem? He said, "I'm back," and that was it.
It's very childish, so it doesn't take itself seriously, you know. It's, you know, instead of trying to fit a formula or trying to do certain things, it just does stuff you want to do.
Duke Nukem has always been about the character, and you know, we were focused on that at the beginning. It was difficult to bring it out with the side-scrolling, simple technology in which, you know, we couldn't have voice work and so on. Actually, the voice started with Duke Nukem 2. At the opening cinematic, he says, "I'm back."
Todd Replogle, the original Duke Nukem programmer, came to me and just asked about doing a voice, because he wanted Duke Nukem to sound like, at least then anyway, sounded like a cross between McBain and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Those were my instructions, and I just said 2 words. I said, "I'm back." I'm back.
Why are they interviewing Joe Siegler? What does he have to add to the mythos of Duke Nukem? What did he have to do with Duke Nukem? He said, "I'm back" in Duke Nukem 2. That's it. That's all he did. And yet, that's important enough for them to interview him as an expert on Duke Nukem. He's a fan. He has nothing to do with the development of Duke Nukem. Nothing. Not one thing. And yet, they're calling upon him as if he's some kind of fucking expert. No. This guy's job at 3D Realms literally was to just do nothing. He was to refill the Coke machines, moderate the forums, and, you know, maintain the website, which was not very well maintained and was horribly outdated compared to other companies' websites. And the main problem is this guy was a fucking jerk. It had to do with the fact that his father abandoned him when he was a kid, and then ever since then, he's been taking out his anger on everyone else. He has a bad attitude, a bad outlook on life because of that one incident. And since he's a nobody in real life, he acted like a fucking child king on the forums. You know, I have a whole elaborate reason for why I hate Joe Siegler in one of my videos. It's in one of the Duke Nukem videos, you know, just go and watch it.
The original Duke that Todd and I were working on didn't really work well, and when George joined the company, he actually spent several nights kind of redesigning, you know, and, you know, back in those days, it's like, you know, it was EGA and very pixelated stuff, but he gave Duke his little smile and gave it the yellow haircut and everything, and kind of really made the character look the way he still looks today.
Unfortunately, that guy, George Broussard, is the reason why this game has been taking 14 years to make. Because the team size was way too small, and he thought that he could get away with self-financing the game. He thought he could get away with that, and he couldn't. And, you know, it's interesting that they're not interviewing George Broussard. Where the hell did he go? Did he just fall off the face of the planet? I really don't know. I don't know if he posts on the Gearbox forums or not. I don't post there. So if anyone posts on the Gearbox forums, you know, let me know in the comments section if he's still around. I mean, what the fuck happened to this guy? Like, if I were him, I'd be pretty fucking pissed because, like, in all the Duke Nukem Forever related media that's coming out, they're always talking to Randy Pitchford. He's now the center of attention. He's the one who's getting all the fucking credit and the fame He's the one in the spotlight. Fucking George Broussard. He's like yesterday's news. He's like, fuck you, fat guy. Randy Pitchford took over. And the game was like 95% done. And Gearbox took over and then gets pretty much all the credit. I would be pissed if I was him. But you know what? If anyone deserves it, it's George Broussard. Because he fucked up the game. So, yeah. You get what you deserve, George Broussard.
What? Did you think I was gone forever?
Too long. We've waited too long, frankly. And I don't know if there's anything that could live up to the idea of 15 years of development, but this is absolutely a worthy successor and a worthy sequel to the game.
I think that this is what fans have wanted to come out, and it's finally come out. I can't be more excited.
Yeah, of course they're going to say that. I mean, they're trying to sell the game, right? I mean, they can't be honest and say, you know what, it's actually not worth the 14 years that we were waiting for. You know, like, that's why I don't like it when these idiots are, like, trying to just hype up the game and sell it. You know, just, like, if you can't be honest, don't say anything. Okay, we know it's not worth 14 years waiting. There is no such thing as waiting as a game that obviously looks like it's been in development for 14 years, unless the game is, like, 1,000 hours long, okay? There's no fucking way. Just don't bullshit us. We're not idiots.
If you're a Duke fan, and especially you're one of the fans that hang out on the 3D Realms forums for all that time, refusing to give up, refusing to, you know, give in to the naysayers or whatnot, you're going to have a blast with this, because it is a hell of a lot of fun.
Refusing? This guy can't even pronounce words correctly. And what the hell is he talking about? If you were one of the idiots on the forums who have been sitting there for 14 fucking years because you're a bunch of morons, then you're gonna be pleased with this fucking game? Refusing to give up? Refusing to give in? Hey, if you're one of those dumbasses on the 3D Realms forums where I was like acting like a fucking child king and you were willing to put up with my bullshit, willing to put up with me being a fucking child king, a fucking pussy because my father left me when I was just a little boy, then you're gonna have a good motherfucking time with this game. You're gonna have your ass one good motherfucking time. You're gonna have your ass one good motherfucking time, boy! One good fucking time, boy!